As the Philippines breaks the 10,000 mark in the number of COVID-19 cases with 658 deaths and 1,506 recoveries, more cases continue to be recorded due to the expanded coronavirus testing. This is happening as a British think tank says the Philippines posted the highest losses in its GDP among ASEAN countries as a result of the lockdown, which has also affected thousands of jobs and livelihoods.
Despite differences, the government and the private sector maintain one attribute in these times of crisis: their willingness to cooperate.
And there is no better time for the private sector to extend its support than today, as the country battles the COVID-19 pandemic.
In what ways can the private sector respond more to ease the impact of the health crisis? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. And welcome to this very special edition of The Chiefs. And with me right now are Ed Lingao of News 5, Amy Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, and Roby Alampay of One News. Hello!
Hello!
Hello,
Good
kamusta?
afternoon.
Oo nga, bago to afternoon.
Oo nga eh.
Okay, kasi special guest. Pero, okay, so what's on your lineup, Amy?
Wala pa nangyayaring masyado ngayon, although people are starting to increasingly talk about the easing into a GCQ.
Pero
Ay, nako. Oh, the Metro Manila Council mayors, a lot of them want to extend the ECQ
Yes.
beyond May 15.
Yan na nga yun. Yung mga health, of course, the health experts want an extension. Ano?
Yes.
Yung business community, yan ang problema.
Mahirap talaga. And then as we saw nung nag-guest tayo ng iba-ibang mayor, you get the sense that kung buong Metro Manila, and if you need a consensus among mayors, it seems it's easier to get a consensus to extend rather than a consensus to open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tsaka kasi yung selective na easing, that's not gonna work eh. Especially in the NCR. Diba? Pwede bang
Bias ka kasi sinasabi mo yan kasi taga Quezon City ka. Alam mo na. Wala ka sa pila.
Kaya nga hindi na ako nagka-countdown eh. The past few days nagka-countdown kami na okay, 8 more days to go before May 15. Eh, hindi na.
No, a few more days after the announcement of the extension.
Yeah.
Yan ang yan. No. Anyway, we'll find out in a couple of days, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kailan daw ba? I think
Dapat na before the 15th.
Yeah. Baka
At least
daw
in this day.
Yeah. So yan ang aabangan. Okay. Anyway, of course, tonight we have as our special guest, one of the most active supporters of the COVID-19 frontliners and many other aspects of the COVID-19 response. No less than our chairman, the chairman of the Media Quest Holdings, Mr. Manny V. Pangilinan. Hi, boss.
Kumusta kayo lahat dyan?
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon po.
Napot po.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Sir, you know, most people think that the quarantine gave them time to rest. Is it true with you?
No.
Are you busier?
Kung magstay ako sa bahay, talagang mabubuwang ako eh. So every day I report to the office. I start my day here mga noon time and then go home mga 7:30 so that I comply with the curfew, no? So yun ang buhay ko. So pagdating sa bahay, continue with the work until midnight. Watch TV and see what's going on.
Actually, many people who work from home say that it's actually busier now because you're always on your toes and you're watching what's happening. Is it the same for you?
Yes. Because kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, because I go online to to meet people, either one-on-one or with a group of us, or
Yeah.
board meetings, or board committee meetings. Kanya nangyayari, sequential. I can have simultaneous, like before, you could go from one meeting in one room to another meeting in the other room, no?
Mm.
Yeah.
Ito, be sequential. At saka, the way meetings are conducted is also bilateral. Because not all of you can speak at the
Mm.
same time. At saka,
Mm.
walang, even during meetings, before or after meetings, usually you have this, alam mo ng mga Pinoy, di ba? Yung mga
Mm.
Yes.
sitting around,
Chikahan.
band,
Yeah.
sikahan,
Mm.
ayun. Wala ngayon. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, boss. Yesterday, as you know, I was listening in on a briefing from McKinsey and Company, sponsored by Asia Society, and among their insights on the Philippines was they said obviously almost all industries are affected, but they said that standing out in terms of more business or a spike in business is of course food, medicine, and then in-house, in-home entertainment, of course,
yeah.
we all know what that is. But all of that is built on the back of telcos. All of
Yeah.
that is built on the. Like, you've always had an appreciation for the developmental power of telcos. But I'm just curious, what are the additional insights that you've had now that in the middle of this crisis about the role of telcos in society?
Well, in a situation like this, Robbie, no, unang-una, because of the quarantine, people obviously spend most of the time at home. So the demand for broadband services at home has increased significantly. No, at the same time, the traffic has increased in the urban
Yeah.
area of the country, but also there's a bigger increase in traffic in the surrounding areas, I won't say rural, but suburban areas, no? So, kanya kami, uh, we have had to increase the capacity at two levels. Number one is the access to the suburban areas for our access network, for our wireless. No? At the same time, we have increased our cable capacity, international cable capacities, because a lot of people are accessing the internet, and of course they
Yeah.
access mostly content from abroad, U.S.,
Yeah.
Korea, and so forth and so on. No? So the impact in the BPO industry has also been significant because their call center agents and BPO agents have started, most of them started to work from home. And so they've called our enterprise group for more broadband capacities.
Mm.
Kanya, ano, the traffic has been, I think we have more than doubled our traffic in the past few months. You know?
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Eh, at
kanya,
saka, people think that this is going to be permanent, that this is going to be the new normal, no? So
Mm.
it's not like when the COVID ends, it'll
yeah,
go back to what it was. So
yeah.
are you ready for that? Are we ready for that? The country
Well,
as a whole.
this is a new phenomenon, no? Mahirap magsalita na ready kami, no? But we're trying our best to cope with the increased demand across the board, no? Yung telco demand for broadband and digital, because may impact din yung mga eskwela eh. Pag nagbukas
Yes.
ang public school sa August 24, ang private school siguro mga Setyembre, ano eh, because of the distancing situation or requirement, a number of the students will have to go on an e-learning platform. No?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
That will again require an increase in broadband situation.
Mm.
Ngayon,
Mm.
kasi kung hindi nila gagawin yun, their enrollment fees will drop. And
Right.
they're suffering now because of that, no? The schools. So for private schools, I guess because of their income situation, most likely the students have the devices to be able to have an interactive kind of relationship with the university, no? Ang pinoproblema namin, because our enterprise is working very closely with the Department of Education
Education.
and CHED, yung public schools, because that's the bulk of our studentry.
Yes.
Mm.
More likely than not, wala silang mga devices. We can transmit one way signal the internet to the students But to have an interactive kind of learning, they would need the internet-capable devices, ideally laptops. No?
Yes,
So
sir.
may makausap tayo mga suppliers abroad. So if we order in bulk, we can subsidize the devices for the public school students. No?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Sir, it's good. It's good that you brought that up kasi we were talking yesterday to Secretary Briones of DepEd, and she was pointing out that problem of infrastructure, both dun sa level ng mga students and teachers. I mean, even UP teachers, not all of them have laptops or internet fixed internet connection. Not even all UP teachers have that. So they have on that level as well as on the level dun sa far-flung provinces where they may not have stable connection. So you're looking at those two levels. Offhand
Yes.
po, is there anything we're looking at uh, in terms of possibly helping out in that direction?
Mhm.
Well, we're working with them in terms of developing and digitalizing the syllabus courses of the universities and the colleges. No, the ability to transmit the educational content to the students, and of course, we're concerned about the devices that are in the hands of the students, particularly the public school students. So across the board, it's an end-to-end process we're looking at. Ang main worry ko is that I think the Department of Education said they will open the public school system August
Mm-hmm.
24 na, no? So we are
Opo, opo.
it's a very
Yes,
tight
yes.
schedule, very tight schedule. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
sir,
That's 3 months away.
yeah.
yep, yep.
Sir, sir, you also have considerable investments in hospitals. And of course, yun yung main unit ng fight in main arena of the fight against COVID. Kumusta naman po sitwasyon sa hospitals, and what is this pandemic teaching you as a major player in the industry? And we know that you have also given a lot of help to various sectors in terms of fighting on the public health aspect. Ano na po yung sitwasyon sa mga hospitals natin ngayon?
Well, uh, in the second week of the pandemic, of the quarantine, we convened all of the CEOs of the hospital group with the shareholders, with Metro Pacific, with KKR, with GIC, the Singaporean sovereign fund, and we determined that we have to increase the number of beds devoted for
Sorry,
COVID patients.
I really need the aircon to go over.
We decided to designate Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital as the main referral for COVID patients. And we said we have to upgrade the laboratories of the hospital so that they're able to test more patients. No,
Mhm.
so that was the first step we took. Then of course the hospital asked for alcohol, goggles, masks, PPEs, and all sorts of things, including the testing kits. No? Kasi ano to, sabi nga ni Secretary Dominguez, this is a process. This is end-to-end process. From your ability to test, get the test kits, test, get the samples, and send them to the laboratories of hospitals, the standalone laboratories. But all along that process, you need the eyes of a clinician or a pathologist. Because yung mga si Juan de la Cruz naman, if you send them out there in the field to test and then make an initial assessment, I don't know whether that is accurate. Kanya kailangan talaga ang tulong din ng hospital, natin staff, to be able to help through that end-to-end process. No?
What are the takeaways here, sir? What changes are you planning to institutionalize in the hospital industry following this pandemic? Mga practices, best practices, or new practices that you're planning to institutionalize kahit mag-GCQ na tayo, kahit mag-lift na ng quarantine?
Well, unang-una, we really have to update the facilities to address these infectious diseases because it could happen again. And I think accurate. Kanya kailangan talaga ang tulong din ng hospital natin staff to be able to help through that end-to-end process. No?
What are the takeaways here, sir? What changes are you planning to institutionalize in the hospital industry following this pandemic? mga practices, best practices, or new practices that you're planning to institutionalize? Kahit mag-GCQ na tayo, kahit mag-lift na ng quarantine.
Well, unang-una, we really have to update the facilities to address these infectious diseases because it could happen again. And I think as Luchi noted na miski magpipik tayo, mukha namang nagpipik na tayo or malapit na tayo doon, hindi naman mawawala yan pag nag-peak na, no? Or when it starts to decelerate. The virus will still be around for a number of months. Who knows when an effective vaccine can be developed, no? So nandiyan pa yan eh. Kanya the testing should continue. So kailangan yun, and the laboratories that we upgrade in the part of the hospitals. Yun, I think, but also the the uh, the ability of our people to get the proper medical care must be addressed.
Sir, I know you're in touch not just with the private sector but also with government agencies, and as you know, the big debate both on the public and
Nawala siya.
Okay. Yeah.
Wala na, Robbie.
Ami, ikaw muna.
Sir, are you planning to expand your portfolio in health services, medical services, or
Yeah.
an R&D, pharmaceuticals, for example, or those types of investments?
Ang sagot dyan, Ami, the broad answer is yes. And should we, kasi in this pandemic, from a business perspective, the guy or the group that develops the one big idea or several big ideas will be the winner. No? So, in relation to your question, should the hospitals get into the production of pharmaceuticals,
Yes.
drugs, right? Hindi pa namin alam, but it's a question on the table. No? Uh, are we planning to continue to invest in more hospitals? The answer is definitely yes, because we really have to upgrade and expand our healthcare delivery system from primary care to secondary care to tertiary care, all across the system.
Sir, I just getting back to my question. Basically, I won't ask you when you would recommend to lift the ECQ, but in light of the dilemma, do you think the country and businesses and government can afford a false start? In other words, can we afford erring on the side of opening with the risk of, or we'll have to do it all over again?
Alam mo ko, Robbie, hindi, I'm not trying to duck the question, pero hindi naman to exact science, di ba? Uh, you know, there are probably data sets that you should look at to guide you in when to relax and to what extent you should relax. But it's not an exact science. We don't know at the end of the day. No? So, uh, in many respects, the entity that has most of the data is the government, and they really have to lead that effort. No? Kami naman, we cooperate with the other business groups and with the government in trying to address the many, many issues that this has been before. No?
But from the point of view of a businessman like you, are you worried that the economy is going to sink even further if
course.
we continue?
Siyempre, Lucy, because hapon may nirelease yung data 2 days ago na a GDP contracted by
Negative.
10%, but from 6.7%.
Yeah.
That quarter, di ba, parang, what happened, no?
Yeah.
So, medyo nakaka-worry yun. Ngayon, I just read an article that why are we doing this? It's like burning the building to kill a few cockroaches. What an analogy, right? So, it's a delicate balance that must not be struck. When do you reach a point of economic collapse versus the value of life?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a catch 22.
But sir, I suppose perhaps to rephrase Robbie's question, not so much the date. We're not really talking about the date. I suppose it's more of can businesses still afford to wait a little bit more? I know it's a balancing act, as you have pointed out. It is a balancing act between staying on the safe side and making sure that the economy does not slide further down. In your discussions with the other business leaders, are they still comfortable with the waiting for a little bit more, which seems to be the opinion of a lot of Metro Manila mayors?
that the lockdown should continue.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, that's one perspective. Really, maybe they have more feet on the ground, no, than business. So, ano, di ba, even in the early part of this quarantine, there were a few of us who spoke up. We should already relax. I
Hmm.
thought
Hmm.
that the president was correct in extending it up to May 15. I think it might be fair to state that perhaps we're probably approaching the point maybe we should start relaxing, no? The quarantine. There was some some thought that kasi naman even amongst NCR, several of the cities are probably past that inflection point, no? So I don't know whether they can relax city by city and so forth and so on, no?
Yes.
Because
Hmm.
but we're noticing also that nabubuhay ang ekonomiya little by little, no? Kasi yung top-ups namin uh, bumagsak from the time of the quarantine until Easter Sunday. That
Okay.
means Easter Monday, umakyat until yesterday, we are approaching our pre-COVID top-up levels.
Really?
Ngayon, ang demand for water is also rising,
Yes.
and traffic on tollways is also slowly rising. And what they call, in the case of for the net system input, or the amount of energy we're buying from the generators are also slowly rising
Yes.
past week or so. So, may konting buhay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But would you attribute that to more economic activity? Would you attribute that to as an indicator of greater economic activity, or
Yes.
just possibly some cash finally making it to our people, especially on the prepaid accounts, social amelioration programs already online, some cash already making their way to our people. Is it an indicator of economic activity, or just an indicator of cash getting to our people?
I think, Robbie, all of the above, no?
Mm.
Nakakatulong yung kanilang SAP,
Stimulus yun. Yeah.
nakakatulong yung the fact that siyempre may yung anticipatory response na malapit
Mm.
na ma-relax ito. At saka pangatlo, yung mga negosyante, matututo na rin eh. Kasi marami ng mga restaurant or
Mm.
shops tulad sa yung outlet sa Manila Polo Club, nagbukas na sila.
Mm.
Oo.
First takeaway. So, natututo ka mga Pilipino na how to respond to the crisis. So, which is
Mm.
good. So,
Sir,
Speaking of which, sir, we always talk to you, of course, as captain of industry. You head one of the biggest conglomerates in the country, but you've always also championed the cause of the biggest employer in the country, which is small and medium scale enterprises. Whenever ECQ is adjusted or lifted, the reality still is that we're in this for the long haul. In fact, for the unforeseen long haul. What would be your advice to small and medium scale enterprises, given that they can't really
Yeah.
see a normal coming back for at least another year?
well, that's a tough question. It's a good one, but a tough question. I think you would like to anticipate that quite a number will probably fall along the wayside. I think that's the reality. Somebody said that the real estate um, agent said that half of the restaurants will fail. No? So I don't know if that's true or not, but that was his view. So we have to. We actually don't know how we can help the MSMEs, but it's in front of our mind. Part of the solution for them to go digital. Part of the solution is to restart operations and do it on a takeaway basis.
Hmm.
And that's where the logistics part of the business comes in because you need the ability to take and deliver, no? Yun, that is as best as we could think, that we could see for now. No?
Sir, speaking of responses, what do you think of the government's response so far? And what would you like to see more of, for example, or something new that should be introduced?
Alam mo, Ami, I actually think they've done a good job.
Mm.
I know I'm probably one of the few who would say that, but
Yeah.
I think they've done a good job. Let's remember this is a new phenomenon. The virus was imported into the country. We did not invent it here. Somebody brought it in, or some people brought it in with the Filipinos traveling to China or in countries that were affected at the time, or visiting Chinese. So we really don't know. And it's a new phenomenon. And the kind of support, I think about aggregate 1.4 trillion that the government that has crafted together, I think is good. They've done a good job. It's not perfect. For example, in the matter of the SAP, dapat sana, I told this to certain people in government, sana kung meron tayong national ID system or a form of identifying who are these daily wage earners,
Yes.
so that the funds can be transferred directly to them
Yes.
rather than through LGU. I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing the system, but kailangan natin yun. Kailangan natin yun.
Actually, may batas na, sir. Eh. Diba? Kaya lang hindi pa nga na-implement. Ah,
I was on a webinar with the economists of UP and Ateneo, and Secretary Pernia was there. Una-una sabi ko, Mr. Secretary, hindi compulsory ito. Diba?
mm,
Pangalawa, sabi niya, walang economic data. Like for example, who are you? Are you a daily wage earner? Anong trabaho mo?
yes.
Anong sweldo mo? We need to, hindi naman because we want to meddle into their private
Yeah.
life. We need the information so that
Yes.
mas madaling itulak yung cash.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
at saka yung database ng gobyerno about the poor ones, they're segregated into land bank, for example, so because they're the conditional tax transfer, di ba?
Yes.
At DSW has something,
Yes. And then there's scam.
curate yung data na yun into a single data warehouse. Para alam nila kung kanino padadala.
Yeah. As far as the group, the MVP group is concerned, how much longer can you sustain the donations that you've been giving out if the ECQ stays? I think even that is something that's factoring into your charts.
Well, Luchi, alam mo, how long is a piece of string, no? Ang sinasabi ko sa mga tao natin na we have to be there for the long haul. Hindi ito, just because we're in front of the camera or whatever na nandun tayo. This is a long haul situation. Kanya, kailangan ang ating pisi, ang ating pasyensya, ang ating tulong, mahaba din. This is not gonna end the moment the government says the quarantine is ending, no? Diba? Kanya, we are mentally prepared for the long haul. Kanya, kung ano man ang may tutulong namin, like increasing the number of tests per day, we will be there. Kung we have to build quarantine facilities, we will be there to connect the power, the water, the telco facilities, donate the bed. We will be there, no? So, hindi ito
How do you
Mr.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Pangilinan, beyond your group's contributions, what are your insights and learnings about coordinating with government when it comes to these matters? Both on the good side, the bad side, as well as what's gotten better.
Well, nung una, syempre lahat, when the pandemic hit us, wala namang template, ready-made template. There's no off-the-shelf solution. Kanya medyo, I think the private sector medyo disorganized din. Albeit, nung una, through the Philippine Disaster Resiliency Foundation, we managed to raise more than $1 billion, which were given to the to the poorest of the poor, no? Because alam namin silang unang tatamaan. But the communication with governments gotten better. Yeah, with the DOH, with the DOF, and so forth. No?
Sir, how do you keep donor fatigue from setting in?
Uh,
Hirap nun eh, di ba, sir? I mean, even now, at the start, ang daming gustong mag-donate, magbigay ng relief. But now that we don't know when this is gonna end, syempre, even individuals are really holding back and trying to budget their own, you know, uh,
90 yun.
finances for.
Kanya the principal actor in any tragedy, be typhoons or earthquakes, really gobyerno. Because sila ang malaking pon. The private sector is always limited in their ability to especially yung mga cash, ano. Pero ang experience ko sa mga tragedyan tulad dito, uh, as chairman of PBSP, nakita ko na yun eh. My first contact sa trahedya, yung mudslide sa Lingao sa Leyte yata yun, ano?
Yes,
Leyte po,
yes.
Leyte. Southern Leyte.
Inano namin yun, tinulungan namin yung survivors. Pero sinabi namin, so yung immediate impact, we were there as the other business groups. Pero when the thing is died down from the media perspective, nung wala na mga camera, medyo nawala na yung mga iba. But it's a long-term problem. We have to move the people, about 2,000 families, away from the danger spot over to another spot, right?
Yeah.
And we did that over a period of months. Ang problema natin is those were farmers, and the land that we were given was near the sea. And so they have to be fisher folks. So,
Yes.
karon ibang
Ay, hindi naman pwede mag-shift. Yeah.
mahirap yun. Pero it always requires a long-term solution. No?
Yeah.
Okay yung mga in the beginning, pero ang where your heart will be tested, are you there for the long term?
Mm-hmm. Sir, in times like these, itong mga crisis, you would have government and the private sector working very closely. In your opinion, what lessons can government pick up from how the private sector responded to this crisis?
Uh, I think you have to ask them, no? I think I would say impression ko na by and large, I think they're quite happy with the private sector support. Ano naman talaga, I think the private sector was very responsive to the requirements of the situation, the government.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, sir, there are so many other questions we want to ask you, especially in regard to organizing the group for this COVID effort to help. But stay right there. We're not done yet. We'll be back.
Wait.
Welcome back to the special edition of the Chiefs. We're still with the chairman of Media West Holdings and the NVB group of companies, Mr. Manuel Pangilinan. Sir, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
In the previous segment, you were already discussing the special amelioration program. Now people are wondering how long this can last. And ano, how can you finance it? What are the suggestions from the private sector?
Unfortunately, yung quantum of that social amelioration program will be in the billions, no, of pesos. I think that's probably uh, principally a government responsibility. Kung ano man may tutulungan, of course, like yung PDRF raise more than a billion, we're willing to do that, but we cannot match the resources of government in that regard. So, isa pang argument din for a relaxation of the quarantine because then if the daily wage earners, the tellers in our toll booths, the people behind the counter of McDonald's or Jollibee, they can return to work, then it lessens the burden of support from the government and from the private sector as well. No? So yun ang yung balance na kailangan ma-achieve natin. Ano? Because mahirap din magtagal na yung subsidized ng gobyerno because at the end, may limitation, I assume, ang kanilang funding. No?
Would it be possible to pay in advance? Kasi na-defer na nga yung payment ng taxes. Would it be possible for some companies, if they can afford it, to pay taxes in advance?
Yes, if it's going to get paid anyway, at some point, June, July, then it's at their option, of course. Yes. That will help.
I know that you've done your part. That was in the news last night. No? How many companies within the group have actually advanced tax payments?
Siguro, yung nag-advance na, no? Siguro mga 4 o 5, Luchi, no? Pero ngayon lang, this lunchtime, I sent a memo to all of the CEOs. Tinatanong ko, ano pang taxes na babayaran natin ng gobyerno between now and June, no? Tingnan natin kung pwede pa tayong mag-advance. So, hindi ko pa alam. Siguro by tomorrow or Monday, malalaman ko kung paano pang babayaran namin.
What amount are you talking about so far? How much has been advanced already so far?
Tinanong sa akin yan kahapon sa reality briefing. Sabi ko, ayokong sa sitwasyon na ganito, ayokong binibilang namin ng tulong, no? Basta nandun kami. Trahedya nandun.
Okay.
Okay. Sir, do you have any concerns or even suggestions as to with regards to how government is going to fund the recovery effort moving forward?
I think they have no choice but to raise it by way of debt. Kasi as far as I recall, ang kanilang total allocation for this COVID is mga umaabot na ng 1.4 trillion, no? Laking amount yun. Kaya I think they have been borrowing principally to fund the overall program, no? That cuts across MSMEs, the daily wage earners, and so forth. And they have requirements.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What about the group, sir? I mean, surely this is eaten into your budgets for this year, unexpectedly, of course. What kind of reorganization did you have to do in order to answer to the need of the times financially?
Well, ang unang namin, area of attention duty ang mga empleyado namin. No? are they in a good financial position? Kaya sinabi namin, let's pay the 13-month pay. We usually pay sometime in the last quarter of the year, no? So binayaran namin yun, Marso pa lang. And we made sure that everybody is okay, everybody is healthy, and so forth. Pangalawa, yung mga are concerned for the contractual workers because pag nagsara yung operation, wala na silang sweldo. So we started talking to our outsourcing companies to ensure that they're able to also pay for their workers even if they're not working. So, and I told them we will support you. Pangatlo yung communities that we need help.
Yes.
Yun ang our first priority. And the second priority, negosyo namin, yung cash flows.
Yes.
So that should take the front seat, back seat mo muna yung profits. No? Kasi wala ka nang magagawa kung baksak ang demand.
Right.
There's nothing much you can do. No? So, and the third area is working and helping government. Yun ang,
Sir, you're also heavily invested in infrastructure, no? How much has the pandemic impacted on your investments? Are you putting several things? Are you canceling certain projects? And you're also participating in build. Are you canceling or delaying considerably certain projects sa infrastructure?
Mami, ayun, may mga comment, tinanong ni Samong yung kahapon sa PLDT briefing. Ang sabi namin, the budget for CAPEX of PLDT was originally, of when this was conceived lately, last year, wala pang COVID, was 83 billion for 2020. Ngayon, we probably will need to reduce by around 20%. So we'll be at the 60 plus billion CAPEX. And that's how we see it. It was not a choice. It was not PLDT saying, let's slash. Because if you look at the process of a capital expenditure build-out, you have to look at your supply chain and your ability to install, for example, base stations. Yung supply chain mo, our equipment are imported. Kung hindi supply ng China, South Korea, wala kami magagawa, di ba? And of course, shipping could be an issue, or air freight. And then when it gets here, our ability to be mobile, to be able to send our people to install or to erect. There's a shortage of cement in some areas, shortage of steel, and of course, our ability of our people to access the site. Because so yung dito, this is where the LG or the barangay situation are very important because if we're not allowed access, hindi tayo makapasok. Kanya if you could spend the entire 83 billion, and I think it'd be a great help to the economy, if you could push the investment as originally contemplated, we're prepared to do that. Meralco also budgeted for around 22 billion. They're estimating, again, because of the situation, it might have to be down to about 12, 14 billion per year. So hindi namin choice yun. It's, the moment the quarantine is relaxed or released, we will go gangbusters to catch up.
Sir, what will be your priority if you had to allocate resources, no? Will it be in utilities, for example? Because, water, electricity, those are basic essentials, no? Moving forward.
No, utilities. Because, di ba, ang pangako namin sa gobyerno, sa mga tao, we will keep the power on. We will keep your lights on.
Yes.
We will keep you connected. We will keep the water flowing. And we will try to keep you healthy. Right? Yun ang that's and I think frankly our utility companies have done a good job because we despite the situation, we are frontliners to continue to install, to repair, to the health workers are in the front lines. So I think they've done a good job.
Sir, sundutin ko lang ng konti yung dun sa utilities that you mentioned, particularly water. Alam niyo naman, napakainit sa labas. And this is the season really that people are thinking of either too much water or too little water. I mean, how much of that problem and that factor is within your control
Your
right now, and
control,
how much of it is keeping you up at night?
Well, Robbie, the good news is, tatalakayin ko yung water at power, di ba? Nung
yeah.
una, nung mga, at the start of the year, medyo concerned kami na baka given the water level at hanggang,
Yes,
baka sa pagdating ng summer, dito na naman tayo, no?
right.
Mukhang mukhang the government has managed the water resources better. Then it looks like it's likely that we will not have a water shortage. Kung magkaroon man, short duration lang.
Mm.
Sa power, concerned din kami in the early part of this year na our spare capacity to demand under normal conditions, we will have Meralco will go on yellow alert and red alert in the summer months. Pero mukhang hindi. Bumagsak ang demand for electricity. So
Sir, what about
we will have we'll have a power shortage.
yes, sir. Sir, what about telecom and media? Given the new normal, given the new parameters we have, do you see the need to rethink or re-strategize, or maybe even reprioritize? For example, the way that content is delivered, the platforms that have to have more funding, and so on down the line.
Well, it's very clear that fiber is the best delivery system because people are switching to digital broadband services. Yan, required na yan. Whether it's BPO, the contrary view, Robbie, is that in fact, given the situation offshore, is that they would need to cut costs and that the demand for BPO services will rise. No, uh, of course, take that optimism view. So, I think ang balita namin, despite the closure of ABS, I think
Mm.
they went on
Yeah,
digital platforms, and
streaming. Yeah,
so I understand that they've had a good live stream audience. So, so that emphasizes the importance of content, the good content, and ang ano lang is how do you? So it's a new business model.
Mhm.
mhm,
So how do you monetize
Mhm.
yes, yes.
to bring your revenues to the level of the
Free
pre-closure? No?
TV.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Oh, tama. Oh.
Sir, balik sa utility, no? What do you think the government will now do, for example, in regard to adding more to the water supply? Do you think this will affect their decision, for example, on the building of the Kaliwa Dam? Tapos sa power, will they be more open to clean coal as a source? Yung mga ganun ba?
Well, I think the projects like the Kaliwa Dam or any other dam will by necessity be deferred. But I don't think we should cancel the project. I think we should proceed because siguro naman may hangganan itong COVID na ito, no? We eventually will find a vaccine for this sort of thing. So importante talaga may backup ang gut eh.
Yeah.
So we should not that's still very, very important in the equation. And power plants too. No? Uh, Ngayon, ang dilemma ng Meralco ngayon is given because ang coal kasi is the cheapest and
Yes.
obviously not the most environmentally friendly, but nandun yung dilemma mo eh. Ba't
Right.
ngayon bumagsak ang presyo ng crudo, no? And
Yes.
gas prices are usually indexed to oil prices. Kanya mura ngayon ang gas. No? The question is, when you build a power plant, it's for 30, 40, 50 years. So will these prices last for that period? So who knows? Diba?
That's also a tough decision to make, no? I mean, are you gonna give up the environmental concerns because of the need of the moment, or that's
And
really
and to your point, unfortunately, all decisions made by humankind is made at a single point in time. It might be it might be the right decision at the time you made it,
yeah,
but facts, the post facts,
Right.
will otherwise prove that you are right,
Yes.
you are not right.
Yeah. And sir, speaking of decisions and seizing moments, they say, a crisis, they say, is a terrible thing to waste. Uh, just looking at everything and the fact that right now there's no traffic, people have a lot of time to think. People have a lot of time to consider old structures as well as new emerging normals and hopefully a better normal. Have you had time to reflect as to, now that we're at scratch, we have an opportunity to build something better.
This is
What are
our
some,
Any answer?
this
ano
is
yan?
our proposed
Sir,
proposal for discussion.
Oh, you have a new normal chart?
Yeah, a proposed architecture of the new normal. As I said
Okay.
earlier, the guy with the bright idea
Patingin, sir, patingin.
will be the winner.
Patingin,
Okay.
patingin. Sir,
Okay.
patingin naman.
Pasilip naman po para baka pwede kong pag-aralan.
Ayan. Okay,
No, but can you give us some
with that point,
insights there?
I'm taking the cue from Secretary Chua. Sabi niya ganun, agriculture. Sa akin, food production. Food production. We really have to get into that. Question to Ami's earlier question yung, should we get into pharmaceuticals?
yes.
And sabi rin ni Secretary Chua, digital. Yes. Yes. So all this. Telemedicine, telelearning, e-government, the matter of yung sinabi ko nga, national ID system, which will help your driver's license, your POEA, your PIR clearances, your passport, ganun, di ba? E-work, e-wallet, e-commerce, smart cities, etc. It's a whole range of possibilities that are emerging from this crisis.
Sige. Sir, we'll just pause for another break. We'll be back. Don't go away.
We're now in the final stage of our conversation for this episode with Mr. Manny Pangilinan, chairman of the PLDT and NDT group of companies, chairman as well of this network. Mr. Pangilinan, we've been talking a lot about the cooperation between the private sector and the end government. Last week, the president had as kind words as people have heard from him in a long time with regards to you and the Ayalas as well. Is everything okay now? I mean, is this the sustainable permanent relationship now?
Well, unang-una, grateful ako for the President's kind words, as you put it, no? And well, I think it's a big step forward, and we look forward to engaging the committee. I think the task force is formed to be able to come to agreement on the amendments that the government wants to see in the concession agreement. No, so we'd like to get it done as quickly as we can. No, as well.
Yeah. But,
So is that going to be the new normal?
No, but speaking of new normal, for me, this is precisely my point. Notwithstanding that, I think it's fair to say that this will not be the last time that the president will say anything controversial. This will not be the last time that people will be reading into his words. But I'm just curious because this is also not the first time that he has had unkind words towards the private sector. How does the private sector take it? I mean, what is the learned behavior on the part of executives and businessmen and investors, and for that matter, even the diplomatic community? Every time the president tends to have his temper get better of him.
Well, Robbie, we recognize that any president, of course, including President Duterte, is the leader of the country. No? So he deserves to be awarded the respect as the president of our country. And so, you take him for what he is there. And, there's no way we're able to change the person, no? And because mainly, he's got to be respected. So, in the Manila situation, I told the people, look, we are under a very serious fiduciary obligation to keep this business running the water business running for the sake of the people, and we should just focus on the business and making sure that we deliver on our obligations under the concession agreement. And beyond that, there's nothing else we can do, right? Uh,
Sir, you're also interested in sports. Everybody knows that you're one of the biggest sponsors. And we are supposed to be hosting the World Cup in 2023. Kumusta po yung how has the pandemic affected your plans? Ano yung timetable? Kaya pa rin ba natin?
Siguro naman kasi lang 21, 22. Tatlong taon pa, no? I was in the FIBA Central Board meeting sometime March. Dalawang araw yun meeting namin. So they just moved the calendar by a week earlier, but it's still in 2023. At saka the FIBA Center Board organized a joint committee. Di ba tatlong bansa tayo, Japan, Indonesia, Philippines, and we're the leader of the consortium. No? So there's a team from FIBA that meets by online once a month. No? So follow up yun. See, we're in the process of agreeing the logo, agreeing the slogan, agreeing the changes to the venues that are needed, and a host of other factors. No? So ano yun, a very very active ng FIBA sa preparations.
So on
Sir,
track,
paano yan?
on track tayo. On track. But in the meantime, there are smaller teams na naghihirap ngayon because of the pandemic. Meron bang pwedeng itulong to ensure that they will survive this crisis?
Oo, mukhang yung referring to the PBA.
Yes, PBA.
Especially because bawal na yung mass gatherings.
Crowds, yeah.
Live.
Hmm.
Ano yun, sir?
And
Yeah.
sports is a community event for Filipinos.
Of course,
Yes.
yes.
It's not something you just watch by yourself. Eh.
Ano talaga yung ano ng sports, future of sports in this pandemic na mukhang magtatagal pa ng gusto.
Well, one by one, no? I understand, nag-uusapan sa PBA board itong issue na kasi siyempre, mismo paano, hindi naglalaro mga players nila, no? Well, yan, should they reduce salaries? Kasi may pondo ng mga PBA, kinikita dati, should they allocate part of the funding to support all of the teams or should the richer teams support the less rich teams, no? So, hindi ko alam kung anong final decision nila. Ako naman siguro, sinabi ko kay Chairman Ricky Vargas, why don't you try these games, di ba? At least may mapanood tayo. I don't know whether it will work. I know it's a little weird
Yeah.
watching the game. No? So, at saka, in logistics, sabi ni Ricky, medyo mahirap because the players got to be tested, etc., etc. So, walang no easy solution to it. At saka, siyempre, hindi natin alam.
Oo nga, sir. Sa basketball pa naman, the sixth player, it's the crowd.
Yes.
Kaya
May ganun pala.
Sanbeda naman kayo, inabot naman niyo yung mga araw na maglalaro Sanbeda tsaka Letran na bawal manood tao eh.
Uy, pwede naman yung mga estudyante mo. Kanya-kanyang ninkala, di ba? Pero ngayon, paano yan? Walang live.
Oo nga.
Paid by the bell lang yun.
It's not live.
Tsaka ang hirap nun, walang balyahan kasi may social distancing kayo. Eh, what's basketball without a bit of physical contact?
At saka nakaganon sila,
Nakamask sila.
Siya, isa pang sports question, yung boxer niya, si Yumir Marshall is being enticed out to go pro. Anong gagawin niyo doon?
Kinakausap yata ni Ricky Vargas na gano'n na muna to stay where he is for the Olympics, no? Yan na nga, na-postpone yung Tokyo Olympics this year.
Yes.
But siguro naman by next year, meron na tayong vaccine. Yung contact sport din yun. Hindi naman pwedeng walang contact yun, ano?
Next year pa boxing, sir. Yung prediction niya, next year pa boxing.
Siguro.
Namin si Senator Manny Pacquiao, hindi rin niya malaman. Wala muna daw sa isip niya boxing ngayon.
Oo. Tama naman siya.
So, sir, curious, in your list of priorities, where does sports come in? Now, given the situation.
Marami. Kaya,
Wala sa radar ko ngayon eh. Namimiss ko, definitely. Pero given the imperative, di ba? Kasi araw-araw, siyempre may tumatawag na, pwedeng tulungan niyo kami dito, ganito. So, doon kami, nagpo-focus. Saka siyempre yung mga requirements ng negosyo, no? Yan. No? But by and large, our companies are doing reasonably well, actually. Reasonably well.
yung agriculture, sir, nasa radar ba ninyo? Agriculture?
Yes.
Larger investment in agriculture.
Intriguing kasi alam mo, one of our major shareholders at First Pacific, si Anthony Silim. So, every weekend, nag-uusap. And one of the things as an aside, nabanggit sa akin, meron siyang greenhouse sa Batam Island, which is part of Indonesia, but very near Singapore, no? On a 10-hectare property. Sabi ko, anong pinatanim mo doon? Sabi ko, vegetables. All sorts of vegetables that we export mainly to Singapore. So that's a very intriguing thought because why can't we do it here?
Yeah.
Why can't we do it here? Because meron pala kami yung properties, one in the south for 20 hectares, one in the north from Bulacan. Cavite yung 27 hectares in Bulacan. Sabi ko sa kanya gano'n, I called him back, said, pwede bang can we see the template of what we're doing? Because we want to replicate it here. Sabi ko gano'n, sure, At saka, if you want to invest, you will invest. So, apparently, there is an existing greenhouse operation run by Israelis, an Israeli group. So, I'm meeting them next week. And we should get into that situation.
Yeah.
We import some of our food items.
Food security. Yeah. We need that.
Sir,
Yeah.
how do you see the Philippines developing or recasting its relations with Southeast Asia and ASEAN, given also the way the whole world is now reconsidering China as still central to the entire supply chain, to all their manufacturing. How do you see ASEAN looking at the new normal as well?
Well, let me talk about the Philippines first, Robin, no? Kasi sa akin priority given what's happening, 'di ba? Medyo nung nakulang tayo ng ng rice, ano, 'di ba? We were
Yeah.
importing from Vietnam at saka nagpapa-cute ng Vietnam na,
Yeah.
syempre, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Uh,
Sila
so,
muna. Yeah.
which brings to mind what Prime Minister Premo Thailand said when he became Prime Minister, very close to the king then, the then king, and he said, I recall, my first priority is to feed my people first. I think that should be in our case. Because this thing happens again and people are reluctant to export food products to you. Ah, mahirap yun. Mahirap yun. Imagine the social consequences. We have to get somehow into this food production. We should help.
Sir, isa na lang clarification, sir, kasi may mga kumakalat na usap-usapan. Are you thinking of delisting Metro Pacific from the stock market?
Sagutin ko naman kay Robbie.
Uh-oh.
Ah,
Intention. That's not a good sign.
alam niyo na sagot ko, di ba?
Okay.
Sa ASEAN, dapat examinin yung kasi we mentioned the reduction capital expenditure. For now, no, we have to look at the supply chain issues of the country, di ba? Supply chain from the things we import abroad and whether we could do them here, di ba? That's one. At saka, what I spoke to the UP economist already, saying, can you help us draw up a supply chain blueprint? Saan ang gagaling ang ating pagkain? Ang ating medicines, di ba? What are the raw materials that go into our food? And where do we get them? Because we need to understand where these raw materials, including packaging, are coming from so that in a situation like this, we can identify where we can substitute the current supply chains that we have from abroad. Di ba?
Yeah.
At the logistical requirements in a pandemic like this will be easier to understand if we have that blueprint. Wala tayong ganun eh. And I think UP can help us in that regard.
Okay.
Good answer to Robbie's question.
Yun nga, take a look at the supply chain. Kasi if you take a look at that, where can they insert themselves in that, in that process, no?
Okay na, relate na sa meeting siya.
All right.
Kasi ang hirap ng mga tanong mo eh.
Biglang nagka-meeting. Biglang nagka-meeting amin.
May meeting talaga.
So if I may, sir, one more question. Something close to all our hearts here, especially in this panel. Let's talk about media itself. With what happened to sa COVID-19, with what we've seen in the past month and a half, and how some of the old formulas may have changed or may have been retweaked. How do you think we will have to change the way we look at broadcasting, whether it's free TV or pay TV or digital? Is there anything that we will have to retweak in the way we look at it?
We're going extinct.
I don't want to put it that way.
I think the group is very good at building networks, building the platforms, the delivery systems. For now, for example, now we know that PLT has the best network in the country, and in terms, and Signal itself is building I think for TV5, the DTT network, no? And we're encouraging, we're supporting that. So, ang missing piece, which will continue nonetheless, COVID or no COVID, yung content natin, talagang kailangan tignan natin yun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Kukunin tayo doon.
Content is still king.
Content is king. Yes.
We have to be able to do it because even if we have a very good infrastructure,
Mhm.
nasa lang yun. So, at saka, then as I said earlier, then how do you monetize?
Yeah.
Mm.
Business model. Yeah.
And
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was a very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much, our boss, Mr. Manny Pangilinan. Thank you very much for your insights and your time today.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you.
And
Thank
yeah,
you.
po. And that will be all for this special edition of the Chiefs. We hope to discuss here. We'll keep the conversation going. I'm Ed Lingao for News.
I'm Amy Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Luchi Cruz-Valdes of News 5.
I'm Roby Alampay, and we are One News.